Salutations and hello, all you wonderfuls. This is your old buddy Jerodius, and I am now playing with a brand new tool for the channel, the Logitech Brio, sorry, like a webcam, which testing out and gotta admit, I'm liking how it's going. Lots going on. This is a very average Saturday, a very average Sunday. And I've just got thoughts on my mind. I decided I was going to go ahead and test this new webcam out with thoughts, observations, and everything on my mind currently. I just first of all, I wasn't sure at first, with buying this webcam, that I didn't know if I was going to use it, to be honest. But I went ahead and decided I was going to go ahead and do that, and I think I understand why it works. I think I understand why so many YouTubers do use them, and that is because because of the proximity of the camera. It's much more intimate. The first two episodes of Watch the Stick, I went ahead and used my Nikon camera, DC200, in case you were wondering. But I used it on video camera mode, and while that worked perfectly well, I thought it's too far away, and just made the videos look a little too choppy. Now here, I'm wondering, on this live stream, am I able to edit it afterwards? I'm gonna go ahead and find out. If not, no sweat. And if I can, hey, goody. I can go ahead and add little things like subscribe buttons. Subscribe to a Watch the Static, please, because I would dearly love to do this more and more for you. I started this channel and I absolutely wanted all my friends on it because I've got the most fascinating friends. I really do. I feel like the people who are my friends thus far are just fascinating people, and I want to showcase them, and more than that, I want to go and build something with them. So this is very much not this channel has never been meant to be an effort of just the world according to Jerodius Thane, and that's it. No. I'm going to delight in showcasing other people, and the more followers I have, the more people who I know I'm going to reach when I do showcase those people, the sky's the limit. I'm going to love this. But I mentioned I had thoughts on my mind, and without further ado, cultural appropriation. It has been a bit of a topic in recent times, and what does it constitute? What does it when are you appropriating inappropriately? Well, and I've got some thoughts on that. If you know me at all, you know that I'm a bit of almost a worrisome sports fan, and I keep track of virtually all the major sports religiously. And so very recently, the Washington Redskins changed their name to the Washington Commanders. Now, I've got some basic thoughts on that. Number one, Commanders feels like the most forced team nickname I think I've ever heard in my life, I admit. But it's a darn sight better than Redskins. I will totally admit that in my own view, I was always against somewhere from the age of 17, 18 on, when I realized exactly what the term Redskin meant as an epithet. It wasn't an honorary term whatsoever. It was meant to. It was a version of the N-word. And that in turn made me very much a proponent of the team changing it. And it's that being the case, I'm glad that they did change it. However, Washington Commanders doesn't quite roll off my tongue. And then I thought to myself, all right, well, but I think that Atlanta Braves and Kansas City Chiefs and all that, while on the same topic, those are okay because those actually kind of give a sort of honorary term to it. I'm not so sure I think that anymore. But It's a, but then that leads to a further question, which is, okay, at what point is it honorary, and at what point it is appropriation? Now, even those in the American Indian movement, like who I've been told many have grievances with the term Native American, like at which personally I do too, because well, we I can get into that later. But like there were many who did not care about the term Washington Redskins, and some who very much did. So the schism between the two kind of connotates something to me, and that is like there isn't a clear cut way to look at it. Well, that being the case, like my own self, I I certainly would no matter what grievance I ever had with some individual who happened to be American Indian or Native American, whichever preference they have, I would never call them a redskin. Like a that's I can't see any way where that would be an honorary term like for me to use. So subsequently, like like I can't see ever using it. And once again, glad the football team doesn't use it anymore either. But um, hmm, appropriation is, of course, like when you indecently like adopt facets of culture for yourself when you yourself are not of that culture. Just very briefly, for me recently, I had a idea of a tattoo. Oh, fun fact: I currently have no tattoos on my body, and I want to change that this year in 2024. And so, while I will design that tattoo, many years ago when I was at college, I learned how to write my name in full-on Japanese, not katakana, which is the basic, but kanji. And well, and then I realized it's like, well, maybe I should not be getting that, to be honest, because I am not Japanese. I did get a chance to go to Japan long ago in 2007, and I do consider it one of the better experiences of my life. Because here I was in this country, that I'd only heard about, and you don't have to be in a country very long before you realize that you don't have the slightest clue exactly about it. The culture, the food, the just everything about it. We go on stereotypes and things that we assume we know far more than what we think, and I am no exception on that. Um, but when I was in Japan, the I gotta say it was just marvelous, completely marvelous. All these years later, I still remember it very well. The subways that you take in Tokyo are just a joy to use, especially in relation to, like, say, Chicago or New York, where they're just like, how filthy can we get this? Um, in Japan, it's just not allowed. They will make it as clean as possible. Um, they the the commitment to infrastructure is an admirable thing in Japanese culture. Um, the food took some getting used to, and I don't mean like the food itself. Just Japanese people, it seems they don't overeat. I went over to a Subway. Yes, go ahead. Like there I am in Japan, and I'm over at a Subway for lunch. I admit, but it was the closest thing. Um, I went over to a Subway over there all those years ago, and the sandwich I got, they don't go by 6 inch or 12 inch like we do in America here, like on Subway. It's like it was a tiny little sandwich, and it's like it was like this is it. And like at the time, I was considerably heavier than what I am now, so I was just going, wow. It's like I was used to for lack of a better term, gorging myself like on cuisine. I had been to South Korea previously, like on that trip, and like we're in South Korea, they just give you 30 dishes worth of food, like, but all of it nutritious. But in Japan, uh, they're not gonna overfeed you, not even in the fast food places. um, Japan was a wonderful experience, but ultimately, I've already decided that although I know how to write my name, that's about the only thing I know in the Japanese culture, like in the Japanese language to go ahead and do is write my name out. I decided I wasn't going to go ahead and get a tattoo for that. Um, it wouldn't be right. It's like, insofar as I know, I am not Japanese. So, and it's just it personally, I think it would look pretty cool, but you need to have stronger reasons other than looking pretty cool for a tattoo, I think. Especially when you've waited as long as what I have in order to get any of them. Well, I don't know. You guys, please tell me your thoughts. Like, in the any comment section, if there is a comment section. I admit I'm totally going on the fly here, and just learning what streaming is for myself. I decided this is what better way to go and test out the new webcam than this. Today being February 4th, 2024, Seattle, Washington, USA, at the time being around 1:50 p.m. There are some other thoughts that I've been having in my head, like Carl Weathers, the actor, passed away recently, and I got to thinking a little bit about him. I usually do whenever, like, someone of like some celebrity that like I know of passes away, and going, huh, wow. Like, in his case, I didn't know that he was 76 years old, although that does make sense, like, timeline wise, because what Sylvester Stallone's something like 80 or 78, something like that. These are not young men anymore, like they were in the late 70s and early 80s when these movies were coming out. Like virtually everyone else, my introduction to Carl Weathers was the Rocky movies, and the character Apollo Creed has gone on to live, of course, in separate movies played by Michael B. Jordan, like a but his son playing his son, uh, illegitimate son. But Apollo Creed was a fascinating character, I think, undoubtedly based on the real life Muhammad Ali. Brash, loud, super confident, super alpha male, basically. And Carl Weathers did a nice job of portraying that character. It's hard to fathom anybody else doing any better. There are many actors who are capable of playing like super alpha characters. He, I think, did it with a plume. I knew that he had played in the NFL for a little bit. I didn't realize it was only a year, and that I thought he had been a safety or a cornerback, but it turns out he was a linebacker and played for the Raiders. That part I did know. One of those guys that he played at USC. Like, he had some athletic pedigree, to be sure. He also was kind of one of those guys. It seems like he majored in theater, like when he was in college, and obviously he went into that. My guess is that he probably could have played for a little while longer because he was very young when he gave up football. But I also think that maybe he was one of those guys that was just, well, with the right opportunity, he was there, like not a star. So with that in mind, he put his eggs in the acting basket, and that turned out perfectly well, didn't it? I also got to thinking about a movie that I only dimly recall. I mean, I know I saw it in its entirety way back in '87, called Action Jackson, which I still think that's a fun title to go ahead and say. But the now late Vanity as well. I just realized, oh wow, they've both passed away. And I just got to thinking, like, I wonder why Carl Weathers didn't get to star in more movies. Good looking guy. He could act. Um, Probably had a range as an actor, but I wonder why he didn't get more starring roles. Doubtless the fact that he was Apollo Creed in so many people's minds, like, was probably a factor. But actors, they live in hope and fear of this, I think. Whereas like I hope I find a character that just people can identify with, and like they see me and they it comes to their mind instantly. But that's a double-edged sword. Christopher Reeve, like when he was alive, probably couldn't escape the specter of Superman. I'm told that the late Larry Linville, he's long gone now, but like when he was in MASH and playing the character of Frank Burns, he could not get away from that character even when he willingly stepped away. And he stepped away from that character primarily because they weren't really maximizing that character by their own admission. The creators of that show just said, we flat out didn't use Larry's talents as well as what we could have. Larry Linville got tired of being the butt of the jokes. He got tired of being Frank Burns and decided that he was going to do what he could to go ahead and distance himself from that character. Carl Weathers was probably in that same boat. Like he probably did his best to go ahead and just go on with his acting life. And like, okay, yes, I was Apollo Creed, but I also played Dylan in Predator. Like I'm also these other characters. Like I'm just an actor. I recently saw him in a episode of The Mandalorian where I thought, hey, this is like one of the most nuanced characters he's ever had. And I was kind of hoping that that character would show up again and like they could make it a recurring character. Sadly, that probably is not going to happen now. But rest in peace, Carl Weathers. You very certainly had an element, like into my youth and my young adulthood, like of what the characters you played. So Godspeed. It seems as though a lot of people, like they are, for lack of a better term, a little bit worried about advents in technology, and I want to say specifically AI, artificial intelligence. I do have a couple thoughts on this. I think I would probably want to expand on this in an episode. But here's the basic on AI. I don't think it's a panacea. I don't think it's going to be the cure to everything. I don't think it's going to be as prevalent as what creators think it's going to be. I also don't think that it's going to be a curse. Like, just I don't think it's going to be a pariah either. AI is like everything else. It's like a screwdriver. It's like Adobe Photoshop. It's like anything else that humans use for content. It's going to be a tool and nothing more. Now, does it possess the ability to possibly be more than a tool and instead a way of life? I've heard more than one YouTuber espouse that like the creators of Current in YouTube are going to go away and they're going to be replaced by AI. And I personally disagree. I think in every instance where there has been an attempt to use robotomization, I'm actually not sure if that's a word, robotomization. I'm going to go ahead and make it a word. If they're like whatever they have tried to make automated and without human involvement has always lacked human element, and that has always proven a vital component that was missed. I mean, no matter what instance you're thinking of. I think that's also the reason why fast food restaurants have not gone to like robots that could take orders and perfect, and like 999 times out of 1,000 get the order right. I'm pretty sure the human is capable of a little bit less than that, typically speaking. But there is human touch inherent in our needs. And one thing you find out when you examine life whatsoever is like just how badly human touch is needed. At my own job, like the lack of human touch has already been at times angrily been disputed. Like with like we want real people doing this job as opposed to the robots that if they learned how to use them would be actually a lot more efficient. And I can't say that I disagree, like per se. Myself, I have no fear of technology. I have no fear of machines taking over. I have no fear of. I just don't have. I'm just. This is not something that I worry about. And even if such a thing happens, where like the machines take over, great. That's fantastic. There are mundane tasks that I'm perfectly willing to let like a little roaming robot do, like cleaning the kitchen floor, which I always make messy whenever I cook. I'm perfectly willing for them to go ahead and do that. I am perfectly willing to go ahead and like give some tasks to things that I don't have to give a coffee break to. And which also brings me to like another thought that I have, like like human evolution and like where I do think it's going to go. Like and this is one where I kind of I get no like opinions from. I personally believe that absorption of human beings into technology is not only possible eventually, it's inevitable. I do believe that when the time comes, human beings will willingly give up like existing bodies, these vehicles, these fleshy vehicles that we use. Luminous beings are we, not this crude mind. We're going to give them up and not necessarily be fully robotic. I don't know. I'm honestly not sure how far it will go, but we will merge with technology. It will become part of our soul. It will become part of the way that we do things. And oh so appropriately, the chime on my clock happens. You can probably hear it. That was thoroughly unintentional timing, but a little bit eerie. And I'm not against it. I honestly think that the human body has probably evolved to where it's going to. Um, I am by no means a biophysicist. I am by no means like I have no scientific credentials of any sort, other than my own high school and some college education. But if that happens, I'm okay with that. I am perfectly okay with the idea of like my net worth of like a of using like a of outlawing paper money and eventually having it be an implant like inside the brain or the wrist or what have you. I'm totally okay with that. I am totally okay with the idea of technology having a role in our lives because I think it should. We have done some amazing things with technology. I mean, here, one second. The microphone I'm speaking into, this webcam that I'm using, YouTube itself, to be honest, and cell phones. There you go. My very green cell phone. Cell phones. The telephone was created in 1876 by Alexander Graham Bell, along with someone else who patented the same idea just a few hours later. So we know Alexander Graham Bell. And who was that guy? The second guy that like patented the machine? I don't know. Point precisely. You don't know. But just think, in less than 130 years, yeah, somewhere. I mean, really. I started having cell phones in 2004, and I remember that they were around for a few years before that. I tried to be stubborn at the time and like not adopt it, but there you go. Like in something like less than 140 years, we've gone from needing like a 50 by 50 room to go and do basic math calculations with a computer to these super mega computers. Less than 15 years ago, this would require like a decent chunk of your house, like in order to go in order to go in all the functions that this thing can do. For the record, Galaxy Note like a 20 Ultra. I may change phones soon, but honestly, like I've got a old Note. Anywho, to add AI, I just would not worry too much about it. I also, oh, true story. You guys, those of you who know me very well, know that like I was into comics for a long time as a kid. I mean, I read thousands of comic books, and it was a great childhood. It was great. There was a issue of the Incredible Hulk, and I'm going to see if I can remember the number of it, but I think it was like number 285. I'll have to look that up. But there's a minor character in the Incredible Hulk's life who is a filmmaker, and because she's an alien, and the name was Berit, this character. I remember that much. This character had created a whole movie that had special effects that made Star Wars look like Sesame Street, and of course, people flocked to it. The brand new experience, the brand new stimuli. And the problem was there was violent opposition from those who it was their business to go ahead and be photographers and editors and like film editors. The movie that the alien Berit had made had no human involvement in it. My own thought to myself was, well, you could probably make it so that you create the movies with humans, like involve and put the human touch into it. You just have to be really careful about who you hired. That was my own thought back then. But that was my first like idea of the violent opposition that machines taking over everything would encounter. I mean, and then of course you realize that in the Heinlein novels that you would soon adopt, like that the like it was actually a recurring theme. I myself do not see us as a species really being willing to go ahead and push the human element out. Now, this is probably me being naive to some extent, just simply because, I mean, people are greedy, humans are greedy, and if they don't have to pay human beings those coffee breaks, those paid lunches, and the salaries that they have, like, frankly, tried to decompress so that they can pay the stars, well, then they're going to go ahead and try to do that, yes. So maybe I shouldn't speak too quickly about what they're going to allow AI to do and what they're not going to allow it to do. But my own thought is like there is enough of checks and balances. There's enough of the human factor to go and keep this from happening. And honestly, machines, they can't be untended. I can't leave these machines untended because they would probably play poker or something like that without my knowledge. Dumb joke, sorry. But yeah, if they did play poker, my cat would totally be in and probably would go in on every hand. But doubling down on a bad joke. Anyhow, I wouldn't worry about it over much. Like AI, not a panacea, not a pariah. It is just simply going to be in the hands of gifted creators. It will be something that can create marvelous things. Ultimately, we just got to go ahead and make sure there is a human element involved. Those are my 2 cents on it. It's really kind of fascinating, though, like how very much of the human experience, like in today, and particularly in the year 2024, is rooted in this versus this, AI versus human involvement, and where we stand on it. Like that's also to me it's amazing how much comes down to you're either here or you're either there. And may I say that in America we are kind of addicted to either or in this country. Like the gray, we don't want gray. We want yes or no. What is it? What is it not? Well, like we We want it cut and dried. This, I think, is like a fundamental mistake. But lately, we've been having like not so subtle intonations of like all right, baby boomers versus Generation X versus Generation Y, Generation Y versus Generation Z versus millennials. I'm probably messing the terms up because I don't really pay attention to generational terms, but like, but you see this happening. It's like, well, ours was the best generation. Like, you guys have got it way too simple. And it's like, well, first of all, my first thought about that is like, wouldn't you have wanted that for us to have it simpler than what you had it? But right along from that segue, it's like this versus this, WWE SmackDown versus WWE Raw, us versus them. So much of current, at least American life, I cannot speak for like other countries, but so much of American life is rooted in this. Like, you're either here or you're there, and no ambiguity allowed in most respects. And I'm kind of like wondering, just, where does this originate from? Does it? And then the thought occurred to me. I think that honestly, an awful lot of human beings are not going to be comfortable with life unless they have something to hate, and conversely, something to love. But I think that's honestly what it is. Like, this need to belong kind of goes in strange directions, and kind of goes in places like, why I myself, okay, I'm going to go ahead and put it out there right now. I am a member, quote unquote, in terms of pure years, of Generation X. But I have nothing against Generation Y. I don't resent them for like anything they've had easier, if they have had anything easier. And to be honest, the mess that generations that came after me, that they're going to inherit, that has got me worried, because what I worry about is my own generation has really kind of dropped the ball and hasn't helped out whatsoever. Now, these, of course, are generalities, and I have said it before in previous videos. I will go ahead and say it again. Generalities are only rooted in some truth. Generalities can't exist if they, in fact, aren't true for somebody, but they can never be true for everybody, because there's always going to be someone who is the anomaly to the generality. At any rate, so I have nothing against Generation Y, Generation Z, millennials. God, I hope I don't have anything against millennials. My girlfriend's one. But why does it have to be us versus them? Why does it have to be this team versus that team? Like, who made this a tournament of lies? REM, it's the end of the world as we know it. And I feel fine. So when did we get this tournament nature to existence? Like, where like, all right, they've scored a point. All right, they've scored a point. So which side is better? It's been going on for quite a long time, and we're more addicted to it than I think we realize in American society. One wonders, like, do we really need that aspect? Do we really need, okay, in order to love something, do we need to hate its converse, or to hate something else in exchange for that? I wouldn't guess so. I myself find it amazing when, there are millennials that are starting companies at the ripe age of 21 or 22 years old, and they're going to go off to do amazing things. My generation, for better or worse, has got Elon Musk. And I think it's been occasionally for the better and mostly for the worse as far as that guy goes. But that's another channel post entirely. So I don't know. Now I would love it if you guys had your thoughts about such things too, but I'm just trying, like my own self. I'm just trying to get along in my own little world, and anyone who wants to join me in it, whether they're my generation or not, yeah, whether they belong to my age group or not, that's great. Let's. I think we should like go ahead and learn from each other, and there's plenty that we can learn from millennials and Generation Zers, and whoever like Generation Alphas, like now, I guess. Um, there is plenty that we can learn from everybody that has come along on this planet. Sorry, I got distracted by the sight of my lovely firefly. Anyway, um, that's as far as what I'll go with that. We could learn. They could learn from us, yes. We could learn from them. And I hate to sound like a kind of a strange little "we are the world, we are the children" sort of message, but I think that's the only way that we are going to live over the next 50 years is if we can go ahead and figure out each other's brains and can like avoid the us versus you, it's your fault, no, it's your fault, like if we can avoid that and just simply go ahead and like trade ideas, then make no mistake, in American society there are great ideas all over the place. The problem is that there are powers that want to make sure that those ideas don't take place for various reasons. I make no mistake about this either. There is commerce in misery, and a lot of people are raking it in. That too is another future episode of A Wash of Static. But but you wonder why the manipulations? Like why is the media like taking in like a stance of like, here, let's go and put this person and make one group feel better than the other on this that's us, not you. You wonder about this, like, and you wonder like at what point do we stop just being puppets, like largely for media, but just for the powers that be that control the media? The 6 o'clock news that people like to go ahead and like watch, you know, like is nothing but a bulletin board by the rich and powerful to go ahead and like allow you to see what they want you to see. And so you know like they want those people. I mean, I'm talking, and I'm not talking the mere billionaires. I'm talking like the multi-billionaires, the people that are in the shadows and you don't know about them, have far more money than the people you do know about, because they're just unreal, because there is something in this for them. They don't want a well-educated population making decisions for themselves, because no, there's no money in that. The zeros don't keep rolling in if the population is makes a point of educating themselves. And that's, of course, that's where the problem is. The people don't want the job of being the people fundamentally. And I am no exception to this. I like my cheeseburgers and my lotto. I like my scratch tickets. I like all my little escapisms. Like, and I very often don't like to think of things like this. This is actually me being a little more lucid about it than what I typically am. But there are people out there that like have every interest in keeping us ignorant. They control the media. They control them. They control the churches. They control them. They control every source of information that you could possibly think of. And I really can't expound upon that without like plagiarizing George Carlin. So I'm going to go and stop right there. But you get my drift. You wonder who's doing the manipulations here. Like it comes down to they consider your mind bought and paid for, and that's ultimately what we are going to have to fight at some point. The human race, if it's going to survive, is going to have to get itself out of there, go ahead and think for themselves, arm themselves with real knowledge instead of what they think they know. And it is amazing how prevalent what we think we know, and again, I include myself in this too, what we think we know in this country like him is just not so. Well, and I've now gone over, 40 minutes like on this thing now. Like, so that's probably enough time for like me to go ahead and like call this quits. But to reiterate, if we keep things confrontational on an unnecessary basis among generations, in particular in American life, not only will America not live, but like the world in itself is not going to survive like such in such a stance. We have 8 billion people on this planet. This, by most estimations that I've ever heard, this world can go ahead and like comfortably hold about 10 billion like human life forms, and then that's where it starts to get dicey. So we are running headlong into disaster. Like it doesn't get the media attention anymore. Wonder why? The ozone layer is still very much a problem, and in fact, it's worse. Ice caps are melting, and like we're having more water on this planet than like what we've ever had before. Land masses are disappearing, and I've got a friend visiting me. Like I've phoning, so I'm going to go ahead and call this good. But remember, there are people who consider your mind bought and paid for. Prove them wrong. I'm out. Take care. Hey, Charlie, what's up?
Hey, you at work?
No, I'm not at work today.